The first thing Han Jun checked every morning wasn't his phone. It was the flame. Blue, clean, steady. He hovered his hand above the burner, feeling the faint heat against his palm, like a pulse under skin. Gas pressure stable. No hiss, no flicker. Good. He twisted the knob off, then on again. Habit. Superstition. Insurance. Morning, chef, the empty bistro said. The clock on the wall answered. 6:02. Route 27 looked different in the early light. At night it would be soft and warm, shadows hiding chipped corners and tight spaces. Now it was all clean lines and raw truth. Unvarnished wood tables, scuffed concrete floor, stainless steel shining too brightly in the open kitchen. He moved through it like a ritual. Flour, salt, oil. The handmade stock he'd stayed up until 2 a.m. adjusting. He tasted a spoonful cold, rolled it over his tongue, frowned, added a single anchovy. Melt, stir, taste again. Better. Timing is everything, he thought, as he rubbed a thumb over the spine of the prep list. Too early and flavors don't wake up. Too late and they die on the heat. His phone buzzed on the counter. Sera. He wiped his hands, glanced at the screen. You awake? Don't burn the place down before I get their fire kiss mark. He typed back without thinking. I already did. Insurance money is great. Hurry up. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. On my way, stopping for coffee. If Mina's late again, you owe me a croissant. He smiled, small and quick. The knot in his chest loosened a fraction. He moved faster after that. Bread dough already proving from last night. He checked the levain like someone checking on a sleeping child. The smell was nutty, slightly sour. Alive. By the time the front door opened, the kitchen smelled like roasted bones and yeast and citrus peel. Wow, Lysera said, stepping inside backward, struggling with a stack of boxes and a tray of coffees. If we fail, at least the fire department will eat well. He crossed the floor, relieving her of half the load. You're late, he said. I stopped to pray, she said. You don't pray. I do on opening days, she said. To the god of full reservations and non-psychotic customers. She set the coffee tray down, blew a stray hair off her cheek, and took a deep breath. Her eyes swept the room, taking in the empty tables, the polished glasses, the brand new cutlery that hadn't yet betrayed them by bending at the wrong moment. This is really happening, she whispered. Our baby's first day. He snorted. Please don't call the restaurant our baby in front of the health inspector. She elbowed him lightly. You're the one who gets jealous whenever I touch another kitchen. Admit it. You're a possessive father. Of the kitchen, he said. Not of you. Then who does that make you? She asked, fake offended. My line cook. He looked at her. Flour dusted her black jeans. There was a faint smear of chocolate at the corner of her mouth from whatever she'd been testing at the bakery before coming here. Her hair was twisted up messily, exposing the nape of her neck. He wanted to lean down and bite it. He also wanted to make sure the fish delivery wasn't late. Go check the pastry station, he said, and clean your face. You look like you fought a brownie and lost. She licked her thumb, reached up, missed the chocolate entirely. He caught her wrist gently, used his own thumb instead. Her eyes softened. Romantic, she said. That was pure self-preservation, he said. If the critic sees your face before the dessert, he'll dock us points. Critic? She perked up. We got confirmation? He nodded toward the reservation book. Table 6. 2 covers. Name's fake, but the agency email isn't. She bounced once on the balls of her feet. We're either going to die or be stars, she said. Great odds. He watched her cross to the pastry corner, flipping on lights, arranging tools. She opened her bag and pulled out the small things she insisted on. A tiny plant in a chipped pot, a lucky whisk, a worn notebook full of ideas scribbled at 3 a.m. When she bent to plug in the mixer, the neckline of her shirt slipped slightly. A slim silver chain glinted against her skin. He reached for the drawer under the main prep counter, fingers brushing the small box tucked at the back. Not yet. Tonight, after service. when they were both too tired to stand upright but high on adrenaline and relief. He could see it already, 2 bowls of something simple, maybe staff meal reheated, his hands shaking as he held out the ring. If nothing went wrong. "Chef!" A voice called from the doorway. "I'm not late. I'm fashionably on time." Choi Mina stood there with her backpack half open, hair still damp, Rue 27 t-shirt half tucked in. "You're 2 minutes late," Jiyoon said. "Kitchen time is fake," she declared. "Real time is variable. Real time is what tells you whether the soufflé lives or dies," Sarah said. "Get changed, Mina. You smell like the bus." "Yes, boss." Mina saluted, slipping past. The morning blurred. Deliveries, checklists, small crises. The fish came half an hour late and half a kilo short. He adjusted the menu board, scribbling out 1 item. The supplier on the phone swore at traffic, apologized, promised extra next time. The plumber came to fix a sink that wasn't broken and left it slightly worse. The coffee machine hissed threateningly until Sarah whispered to it and patted its side like a skittish horse. 10, his old mentor called. "You ready?" the older man asked. "You can still run away. Change your name. Open a taco truck in Busan." "I'm ready," Jiyoon said. "Don't burn the stock," the man said and hung up. By noon, the staff meal was on the pass. Simple rice, egg, leftover vegetables, miso soup. They ate standing, leaning against counters. "This is better than half the places I've worked," Mina said around a mouthful. "If we go bankrupt, at least I ate well on the way down." "We're not going bankrupt," Sarah said, stabbing a carrot. "We have 50 reservations and a waiting list. We also have 1 oven," Mina pointed out, "and a chef who thinks time is a suggestion." "Time is an ingredient," Jiyoon said. "Mishandle it and everything collapses." He meant it as a kitchen philosophy. It lodged somewhere deeper anyway. The day sped up after that. Prep bled into pre-service. The first table arrived at 6, a couple on an anniversary holding hands like teenagers. By 7, the bistro hummed. Tickets clipped to the rail. Calls back and forth. 2 tartare. 1 scallop. Fire. Fire 2. Behind. "Hands, please." "Yes, chef." Jiyoon moved in the small dance between stations. Taste, adjust, plate. He corrected a garnish here, wiped a smear there. His hands were steady even when his heartbeat wasn't. "Table 3 is asking if you can come say hi," Mina said at one point, cheeks pink from the heat. "Tell them I'm fictional," he said. "They're food bloggers," she said. "If we ignore them, they will destroy us with emojis." "I'll go," Sarah offered. "I'm cuter. They'll forgive me." "No," he said quickly. Her puzzled look made him soften it. "I mean later, when it slows." "Ah," she cooed. "Is someone jealous?" "Of who exactly?" he asked. "The bloggers? Or you?" "Good answer," she said, grinning, and went back to piping cream. Between courses, he noticed things. A man in a dark jacket and cap, sitting alone at the bar for too long without ordering much, eyes flicking often toward the kitchen door. A delivery guy who dropped off a crate at the back, then lingered in the alley, smoking, talking on his phone with his head bowed, as if he didn't want cameras to catch his face. Mina slipping out the back for a quick call and returning with her eyes a fraction too wide. Normal restaurant chaos, he told himself. Everyone looked suspicious when you were watching them instead of the pans. At 8, the critic arrived. He came with a partner and a neutral expression, the kind that said he'd seen every trick already. He tasted everything, didn't finish anything, took notes on a small, neat pad. "We're doomed," Mina muttered. "Shut up and plate," Jiyoon muttered back. A small mistake almost snowballed. A steak over-rested, a sauce almost split. He caught it at the last second, adjusted, rerouted. The critic's eyebrow rose once and only once. Jiyoon decided to take that as a win. At 10, the last main went out. The rush eased. The soundtrack in the dining room shifted to slower music. People laughed louder. Wine glasses emptied. Sarah slid a small plate onto the pass. "For table 6, she said. "Off-menu dessert. My apology for the delay." On the plate, A delicate construction of citrus and cream and burnt sugar glowed under the kitchen lights. "Show off," he said. "I'm allowed," she said. "It's our night." She leaned her elbows on the counter, watched him work for a moment. In the relative quiet, her voice dropped. "When we close," she said, "don't run back to the kitchen like you always do." "What do I do then?" he asked, shaving curls of fennel. "Sit," she said, "for once, with me, on the other side of the pass." "You planning to fire me?" he asked. "I'm planning to drink bad champagne with you and complain about customers," she said. "And maybe," she hesitated, then shook her head. "Never mind." "Surprise." He glanced at her. "You hate surprises." "Exactly," she said. "So imagine how much I love you if I'm planning one." His hand stilled for half a second. The ring box seemed to vibrate at the edge of his awareness like a trapped insect. "We're on the same page," he thought, a little dazed. "Good. Okay," he said. "I'll sit. Promise. Promise." A promise is just timing in words, he thought later, when the dining room emptied and the chairs were stacked. The last customers left around 11, waving, telling them they'd definitely post about it. The critic gave a small nod on his way out. Sarah bounced once behind the bar, muffled a squeal, and then pretended she hadn't. "Don't celebrate until the review drops," Ji-yoon said. "He might hate cilantro." "You didn't put cilantro anywhere," she pointed out. "Exactly," he said. "He might be offended." Mina wiped down the last table, humming. "I'm going to catch the last bus," she said. "If I miss it, I'm sleeping in the walk-in." "Text me when you get home," Sarah said. "Yes, Mom," Mina teased. When the front door clicked shut behind her, the silence inside Route 27 sounded softer. The kitchen lights were dimmed, leaving just the undercabinet glow. Outside, the street was slick with recent rain, neon reflections shimmering in puddles. "See," Sarah said, hopping up to sit on the counter. "Not so scary. We didn't die. Standard is higher than not dying," he said, though he felt suddenly, strangely tired right down to his bones. "In the back," he said automatically. "I'll grab it." "And the special glasses," she called. "Not the chipped ones we pretend are rustic." He wiped his hands, untied his apron, and crossed to the storeroom. The ring box waited in the drawer like a held breath. He paused with his hand on the handle, then opened it. A small, simple band. Nothing flashy. Just a circle. No end, no beginning. "Don't say anything cheesy," he muttered to himself. "Just ask." Outside, a bottle clinked faintly as Sarah moved something. He heard a soft exhale, a muffled laugh at nothing. The normal small sounds of the end of service. He grabbed the champagne from the shelf, the two good glasses, tucked the ring box into his back pocket. When he stepped back into the kitchen, it was empty. He blinked. "Sera." No answer. He set the glasses down, checked behind the bar. The bathroom, the office nook with the tiny desk and the printer that always jammed. "Sarah, if you're hiding to jump out, I swear." Nothing. Prickle crawled up his neck. He frowned, glanced at the back door. The bolt was half drawn, not fully slid into place. He remembered the man in the cap at the bar, the delivery guy lingering in the alley. The way Sarah had said, "I'll just take the trash out. You hate the smell." He hadn't noticed her going. His throat went dry. He pushed through the back door. The alley behind Route 27 was narrow, squeezed between brick walls, lit by a single flickering bulb. Rainwater gathered in uneven patches on the ground. Trash bags lined one side, waiting for collection. The smell of damp cardboard and old oil hung in the air. For a moment he saw nothing out of place. Then his eyes adjusted. "Sarah," he breathed. She lay sprawled halfway between the door and the street. One hand stretched toward him, fingers curled. A dark stain spread under her head, seeping into the cracks. Beside her, a broken dessert plate gleamed pale, shards scattered. A smear of orange cream streaked across the concrete like a clumsy signature. He dropped the bottle. Glass shattered, the sharp crack swallowed by the roaring in his ears. Sera. He fell to his knees, hands fumbling for her shoulders, her face. Her skin was too cold already. No, 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 he whispered. Look at me. Hey, look at me. Her eyes were open, staring past him. Her mouth was parted slightly, as if she'd been about to say his name and ran out of time. His own voice sounded wrong in the alley, too loud and too far away. He dimly heard shouting. Mina's voice from the street, someone calling emergency services, the distant wail of a siren starting up. A hand grabbed his arm. Sir, you need to step back. He couldn't let go. His fingers dug into her clothes. Sir, another voice said, firmer. You're contaminating the scene. Scene. Like a set. Like a crime show he'd watched half asleep with Sarah on the couch. He looked up through a blur. A man in plain clothes with a badge hanging from his neck stood there, expression tight. Kang Dojin. Ji-yoon recognized him from old photos Sarah had shown him. My childhood friend who became a cop and now thinks everything is suspicious, including my baking. Now those eyes were on him, sharp and heavy with questions. What happened? Dojin asked. Ji-yoon's mouth opened and closed. She was just inside, he managed. I went to get the champagne. I came back and… He broke off, breath catching. The words felt flimsy and ridiculous even to his own ears. Sirens grew louder. Blue and red light flickered at the mouth of the alley. Somewhere behind the noise, a thought slid in, cold and small. If I had come out 30 seconds earlier. If I had told her to wait. If I hadn't… Han Ji-yoon, Dojin said slowly, as if tasting the name. You're the owner, right? He nodded numbly. And her boyfriend. Fiancé, he said, before he could stop himself. Dojin's gaze dropped to the empty space of his bare ring finger. I'm sorry, he said, and somehow made it sound both sincere and carefully neutral. But I'm going to need you to come with us after the paramedics are done. Questions. Statements. Bright tape across the alley. A white sheet. Later, in a gray room that smelled of sweat and coffee, under lights that hummed too loud, he answered the same questions again and again. What time did you last see her alive? Did she have enemies? Did you argue? He stared at the digital clock on the wall as it ticked toward 23:27. The numbers shifted calmly, unconcerned with his answers. I didn't kill her, he said at one point, more to the clock than to the officers. I'd burn the restaurant down before I let anyone touch her. That's not helping your case, one of them muttered. At 23:27, the bulb overhead flickered. He shut his eyes, just for a second. When he opened them, the light was different. The harsh glare was gone, replaced by a softer, bluish tone. Something beeped nearby with a steady, annoying rhythm. A smell of coffee, not burnt, just strong, hovered in the air. He sat up. He was in bed. His bed. The small, narrow one in his apartment above the bistro. The familiar groan of the mattress under his weight. His heart slammed against his ribs. For a moment he thought he'd blacked out in the interrogation room, that this was some fragment, some dream. Then he saw the alarm clock on his bedside table. 6 o'clock. He stared at it. Ticked to 6:01. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. He picked it up with numb fingers. You awake? Don't burn the place down before I get their fire kiss mark. The room tilted. He dropped the phone. It bounced on the mattress, landed face down. This is shock, he thought. Grief. A dream running in loops because the brain can't handle the ending. He dug the heels of his hands into his eyes until sparks danced behind them. He forced himself out of bed. Cold water. Mirror. Same face. Same tired eyes. No blood. When he stepped into the kitchen downstairs, it smelled like nothing. No cooked stock. No roasted bones. Just stainless steel and detergent. The burners were off. On the counter, the prep list waited. Blank. He moved mechanically, turning on lights, opening the fridge. The containers were full, exactly as they had been yesterday morning. The Levine rose in its jar at the same stage. He checked his phone again. You awake? Don't burn the place down before I get their fire kiss mark. He scrolled further. No messages about ambulances. No missed calls from an unknown number. No call log with the police. His thumb hovered over Sarah's name. He didn't call. He stood in the middle of Rue 27, heart pounding, and listened. Outside, a motorcycle passed. A neighbor shouted at a dog. Somewhere above, a TV droned. Inside, everything waited. He turned the gas on, watched the flame flare blue. Off, on again. Okay, he said aloud, just to hear something. The door opened. Morning, chef, Sarah said, stepping in with coffees and boxes. If you started without me, I'll report you to the labor board. She broke off when she saw his face. Whoa, you look like you didn't sleep at all. Are you rehearsing for a zombie pop-up? He crossed the floor in 3 strides and grabbed her shoulders. Her eyes widened. Okay, now you're scaring me. He pulled her into his chest. She froze. Then her arms came up slowly, wrapping around his back. Hey, she said softly. What happened? He buried his face in her hair. The scent was exactly the same citrus shampoo. A hint of vanilla from the bakery. Something warm that was just her. I had a nightmare, he said into her shoulder. Must have been bad, she murmured. You're shaking. He held on a beat longer than normal, then forced himself to let go. I'm fine, he lied. She searched his face. You sure? We can still postpone. No one's going to die if we push opening a week. His stomach flipped. No, he said a fraction too quickly. We go ahead. No postponing. He watched every moment that followed like someone watching a show they'd already seen once but couldn't quite remember the details of. Mina's entrance at 7:03 with the same joke. The late fish delivery. The plumber. The mentor's call. Staff meal. If he spoke differently, if he lingered longer on a word, the reaction sometimes shifted by a hair. A slightly different joke. A different grunt from Mr. Park downstairs. But the shape of the day stayed the same, like a script that allowed a little improvisation but always pulled back to the key beats. By late afternoon, he wasn't sure if his headache was from stress or from trying to outrun something that had already happened. He tried to change things. When Mina suggested a cigarette in the alley, he snapped, No breaks out back, ever. Use the front if you have to breathe. She blinked, stung. Okay, sorry. When the man in the cap lingered at the bar, June stepped out himself, wiping a glass he didn't need to. Can I help you? He asked. The man shrugged, slid off the stool, left without a word. When delivery arrived, he double-checked receipts, faces, everything. Still, at 8 the critic arrived. At 10 the last main went out. At 11 he cornered Sarah by the pastry station. Don't take the trash out, he said. She looked up, brow furrowed. What? Stay inside, he said. I'll do it. You stay where there are people. Did you see a rat again? She asked, half teasing. You're supposed to be the tough one. I mean it, he snapped. Something in his voice made her straighten. Okay, she said slowly. You're really not okay today. I'll explain later, he promised, already stacking bags. He dumped the trash quickly, eyes scanning the shadows. Nothing moved. Inside, he bolted the back door all the way. Checked it twice. Champagne, Sarah reminded him. And the good glasses. I'll bring them to the front, he said. We can sit where people can see us from outside. Sure, she said, more gently than before. Whatever makes you feel better. He focused on tasks. Bottle, glasses, ring box. His hands didn't shake this time. When he stepped out, the kitchen was empty. Sera. His heart leaped into his throat. He rushed to the dining room. She wasn't there. His gaze hit the front door. It was half open, bell still trembling from a recent ring. On the sidewalk outside, under the street lamp, he saw her. Standing near the curb, phone pressed to her ear. Relief crashed through him so hard he had to grab the edge of a table. He walked toward the door, caught by a snatch of her words through the glass. No, I can come by now if it's urgent. Yeah, the alley behind. He yanked the door open. Who is that? he demanded. She jumped, turning. You scared me. It's nothing. Mina's friend. Mina doesn't have friends who call you at 11, he said. Hang up. Her eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Hang up, he repeated. The person on the other end said something he couldn't hear. Sarah hesitated, caught between his insistence and the voice in her ear. Fine, she told the phone. I'll call you back. She hung up, slid the phone into her apron. You're being weird. Don't go into the alley, he said. Promise me. She studied him. The concern from the morning was back, but now there was an edge to it. Ji-yoon, she said. If something's wrong, tell me. Don't just bark orders. I can't, he began. He saw a shape flicker at the mouth of the alley, a shadow against deeper shadows. His blood ran cold. He stepped in front of her without thinking. The sound of breaking glass reached them a second later, not from behind but above. He looked up just as a large planter, knocked from a balcony by clumsy hands or deliberate shove, fell. There was no time to move both of them. He shoved her sideways out of the way. The world went white-hot and red, and then silence. He woke to the sound of his alarm. 6 o'clock. His chest hurt as if something had collapsed inward. He touched his ribs. No bandage. No bruise. Just phantom pain. His phone buzzed. You awake? Don't burn the place down before I get their fire kiss mark. His breath came out in a shudder. The loop wasn't a dream. It was a sentence. He lay there for a long moment, listening to the steady tick of the clock, and understood one thing with sharp, terrifying clarity. No matter what he changed, time was pulling them toward the same ending. And the day would keep resetting until he found the one move that broke it. Han Ji-yoon stopped counting after the 5th death. Not hers. His. The 3rd time the day reset, he tried to be clever. He didn't scream, didn't cling to Sarah, didn't spook her with half-truths and wild eyes. He smiled more than he felt like smiling and moved through the motions the way an actor moved through blocking once the script was already memorized. He kept her away from the alley, away from the balcony, away from the front door at closing. Every time something tugged her toward danger, a phone call, a favor from Mina, a neighbor waving from the street, he cut in. I've got it, he said. You stay here. She pushed back at first, suspicious. Then she softened into it, amused. You're weird today, she said once, resting her chin on her hand at the pass. But in a hot, scary bodyguard way. I'll take it, he said. At 23:20, Sarah was still alive. She sat on the counter, sipping cheap champagne from one of the good glasses, laughing at him for mangling the name of a French sauce in front of the critic. At 23:22, the power went out. The kitchen plunged into darkness. The hum of fridges and vents died. Only the emergency light over the back door flickered on, throwing everything into dull, gray-blue. Fuse? Sarah asked. Stay there, he said. Don't move. The breaker box lived in the little utility room off the back hallway. He knew it well, had cursed it more than once during construction. He found it by feel, hands sliding over cold metal. His fingers brushed a wire that shouldn't have been there. Too smooth, too loose, taped in place. The spark kicked into him like a kick door. His muscles seized, jaw locking, vision exploding into white fire. Something hard smashed into the back of his skull at the same time. Not the wall. A deliberate blow. His last thought before everything went black wasn't about himself. Sera. He woke to his alarm. 6 o'clock. By the 8th reset, his hands shook when he texted her back. By the 12th, the morning message felt like a taunt. You awake? Don't burn the place down before I get their fire kiss mark. I'm trying, he told the ceiling. He tried all the easy fixes first. He told Sarah to take the day off, faked a fever, claimed a gas leak and canceled the opening. That's not funny, Sarah said, staring at the empty reservation book. We announced. People booked. You want our first impression to be chef-bailed? I want you alive, he said. Is someone threatening you? She asked. Is this about that thing again? That thing. The old restaurant. The food poisoning case. His name in articles next to words like reckless and negligent. No, he lied. Yes, I don't know. She walked around the counter and took his face in both hands, thumbs warm against his cheekbones. If you're in trouble, I'm in trouble, she said. That's how this works. That's how it worked when we signed the lease and nearly fainted at the deposit. Remember? He remembered too well. That's the problem, he said. Full sentences, chef, she muttered. You can't season with half a thought. He tried. He said, I have a feeling, and things keep going wrong, and trust me. But he didn't say, you've died in my arms so many times I can smell the alley before we step into it. The more he circled the truth, the more her expression closed. Okay, she said finally, voice careful. Then we do what we can. We check exits. We tighten rules. But we don't run away from opening night because of your vibe. He looked at the clock. 14:13. In several loops, this was the moment the fish delivery went wrong. He let the minute tick by. That night, they did something he hadn't tried yet. They didn't open. No soft launch, no friends and family, nothing, Sarah said, sprawled on his couch later with a blanket around her. Just us. See? No critics. No customers. No deaths. He wanted to believe that meant something. At 22:50, her phone rang. She groaned and checked the screen. Unknown number again. Probably someone asking if we're open. Don't answer, he said. She lifted it anyway. Hello. He watched the shift in her face. Irritation, confusion, worry. Now, she said. That's okay, slow down. She covered the mic. It's Mina's neighbor, she whispered. She says Mina's door is open, lights on, no answer. She already called the police, but she sounds terrified. The police exist for a reason, he said. And so do we, Sarah shot back. We're the ones who hired her. I'm going. He went with her. Mina's building smelled like damp concrete and cooking oil. The neighbor waited in slippers, hugging herself at the entrance. I knocked and knocked, she said. She always says hello. I got scared. Mina's door was ajar. A thin strip of light cut across the grimy hallway floor. Sarah, wait, he said. She was already pushing it open. Mina, he followed, every nerve stretched. The studio apartment was a single room. Mattress on the floor, tiny sink, clothes draped over a chair. The light over the sink buzzed softly. No body, no blood, no broken glass, just emptiness. His knees almost went weak with relief. Then something moved behind the door. He saw the shadow and heard the breath at the same time. Sarah, he snapped, lunging. Metal flashed. The blow meant for the back of her head cracked into his shoulder instead. Lightning-hot pain shot down his arm. They tumbled. The attacker bolted. By the time Jiun staggered to the hall, the stairwell echoed empty. Sirens arrived late like always. Questions followed. At 23:27, standing in Mina's doorway, trying to explain why he'd been there, the world squeezed. He woke to his alarm. 6 o'clock. Sleep became meaningless. Food tasted wrong. Only the pattern felt real. So he started writing it down. On the next reset, he stole a server's order pad and stuffed it into his apron. Between chopping and tasting, he scribbled notes. Times, faces, details. By the time dessert went out that night, pages were filled with cramped handwriting. Man with cap at bar. 1930 to 2010. Mina phone call 20:55. Always goes outside. Something always lures Sarah out between 22:50 to 23:20. If Sarah is safe, I die. If I'm safe, she dies. He showed the notebook to Kang Dojin in one of the loops where his patience for pretending finally snapped. They sat in a corner of a cafe down the street from Rue 27. It was late morning. Outside, the city moved as if it had never watched anyone die. You expect me to believe this? Dojin asked, flipping through the pages. I expect you to believe someone is trying very hard to kill either me or Sarah, Jiun said. And they don't care which. You jumped from, I have a bad feeling straight to, premeditated murder pretty fast, Dojin said. Because I keep watching it happen, Ji-yoon said. Different angles. Same result. Dojin studied him. You look older, he said finally. Like you aged 10 years in a week. Feels like longer, Ji-yoon said. Look. Dojin tapped the notebook. Instinct is one thing. Patterns are another. You're starting to show me the second one. Man at the bar. Phone calls. The girl, Mina, that I can work with. Then help me, Ji-yoon said. I am, Dojin said. Quietly. You think I just happened to be nearby when a stranger pulled a gun in your dining room? I've been circling your place since the first time you showed up on my radar. In your reality, Ji-yoon muttered. In the only one that gets me a paycheck, Dojin said dryly. Listen, if you keep throwing yourself in front of Sarah every time something moves, whoever's after you will just keep testing different ways to reach you. We'll never see the full play. You're suggesting I use her as bait, Ji-yoon said flatly. I'm suggesting you stop trying to shield everyone from everything, Dojin countered. You're not a bulletproof wall. You're a chef with a knife and a martyr complex. Ji-yoon almost laughed. You think I like this? I think you're scared, Dojin said. And that's fair. But fear without strategy just gets more bodies on the floor. The loop reset before they could decide whose strategy would win. On the next one, Ji-yoon tried the opposite of control. He let the restaurant slip. Not into disaster, he couldn't turn off that part of himself, but he stopped chasing perfection. He didn't correct every garnish. Didn't adjust every plate twice. He stayed next to Sarah whenever he could. He refilled her water, carried heavy trays, followed her to the fridge and back. Are you auditioning for a new role? She asked. Like, clingy bodyguard? I'm multitasking, he said. You're hovering, she said. If I wanted a shadow, I'd install another lamp. The restaurant felt the difference. Tickets backed up. Timing slipped. The critic left early, unreadable. We're dead, Mina muttered. Our first review is going to be a funeral. At least we'll have good food at the wake, Sarah sighed. That night, there was no alley, no balcony, no sudden blackout. Just exhaustion. They closed late, dragging. Ji-yoon bolted the back door himself, triple-checked it, kept Sarah in the brightest part of the dining room. Felt almost normal. This is the part where you relax, Sarah yawned, leaning on the bar. No one died. You can stop looking like the apocalypse is hiding in the walk-in. He wanted to. Then the phone rang. Unknown number. Again. Don't, he said. She stared at the screen. It could be a late reservation, or my parents, or a wrong number we can laugh at forever. It's none of those, he said. Just trust me. She hesitated, then slowly set the phone back down, unanswered. Progress, he thought. At 23:05, the fire alarm went off. Not in Rue 27. In the building across the street. A shrill, ugly wail. People spilled onto the sidewalk. Smoke curled up from a third-floor window. Sarah ran to the front, pressed her hands to the glass. That's Mrs. Yang's building, she said. She comes in here for soup. We should stay out of the way, he said. The fire department will handle it. She turned on him, eyes sharp. She's 73. Which is exactly why professionals. He broke off. The hum had started again. Low under his skin. A pressure behind his eyes. Familiar and hated. The air felt off as if the room were a fraction of a degree misaligned. You feel that? He whispered. What? Sarah asked. He looked at the clock. 23:19. No alley. No phone calls. No balcony. The loop was improvising. At 23:26, standing next to Sarah by the window, watching firefighters spray water into a stranger's life, he realized the truth. It didn't matter if the night ended in an explosion or a whisper. As long as he and Sarah were both breathing at 23:27, time refused to move forward. The world shivered. He woke to his alarm. 6 o'clock. This time he didn't flinch. He sat very still and listened to the ticking clock. Then he picked up his phone and dialed a number he'd sworn never to call again. Who is this? A curt voice answered. Chef Joe, he said. It's Han Ji-yoon. A pause. I see you're opening a place, Joe said at last. Turns out some investors are still willing to gamble on damaged goods. I remember the night you let them put it all on me, Jiyun said. The spoiled stock, the delivery that wasn't logged, the brand that didn't match the invoice. If you're calling to whine, call your therapist, Joe said. We all lost something that day. I lost my name, Jiyun said. What did you lose, exactly? Time, Joe said. The only real currency. But I did what I had to do. You were naive. You thought the kitchen was about food. It's about survival. People are still paying for your survival, Jiyun said. My staff. He stopped himself. Someone is using your mess as an excuse. If I wanted you gone, you'd be gone, Joe said lazily. I don't need to lift a finger. You made a lot of enemies when you fell. Investors who lost money, suppliers who ate the cost, staff who got fired. Some of them never got back up. Names, Jiyun demanded. Figures you'd only start asking now, Joe said. But it's not my job to introduce you to everyone who hates you. Hang up and focus on your little bistro. Or don't. Either way, you're the kind of story that tends to end badly. The line went dead. Service still happened. The day refused to pause for his revelations. Orders came in, plates went out, and under it all he felt the clock grinding toward the edge again. He stopped Mina behind the dumpster on her smoke break in one of those loops. Her lighter clattered to the ground. She'd been crying. He could see the shine on her cheeks even in the bad light. Who keeps calling you? He asked. She flinched. No one. He held up the envelope he'd taken from her locker earlier that day. Her name was printed neatly on the front. Try again, he said. Her shoulders crumpled. She slid down the wall until she was crouched beside the trash bags. It was just supposed to be one job, she whispered. They said, if I helped once, they'd clear my debt. My dad's business failed. My brother were drowning. I thought, what job? He asked, voice tight. Leave a door unlocked, she sniffed. Move a bottle. Let someone in the back at a certain time. I wasn't supposed to hurt anyone. They said no one would even know it was me. And Sarah? He asked. What did they say about her? She squeezed her eyes shut. They said people around you get hurt anyway. That you ruin places. That this is karma. That whether it's you or her, it doesn't matter as long as someone pays. He blew out a breath, staring at the night sky slashed open between buildings. It's not your job to pay for my ghosts, he said eventually. I was going to tell you, she hiccuped, or tell her. But every time I tried, Go back inside, he said. Don't answer any more calls. If they contact you again, you come to me or you go to the police. Understood. You're not firing me? She whispered. I don't have time to train a replacement, he said, which was as close to mercy as he could manage. Tomorrow we'll talk. Tomorrow never arrived. Not yet. The day kept folding back on itself. Each time he learned a little more, caught a different angle. A word here, a face there. In one loop, a gunman walked through the front door at 23:05, eyes flat, jacket bulging. Dojin, who'd been waiting in a car outside because Jiyun had begged him to, just humor a stupid hunch, took him down with a shot through the window. In another, somebody messed with the gas line. In another, a fuse conveniently failed above the door where Sarah liked to stand. In another, Mina's apartment was staged like a trap, the attacker waiting behind the counter. It was like playing a game where the rules changed every round except for one. Someone wanted either Jiyun or the woman he loved to die. And time itself wasn't going to let the story end until the price felt right. On the loop that carved itself deepest into him, the attacker came in through the back door wearing a white kitchen coat. If not for the eyes, Jiyun might have mistaken him for a delivery driver or a temp cook. Service is over, the man said, stepping into the glow of the undercabinet lights. But I still have one dish left for you, Chef Han. Mina froze by the sink. Sarah went still at the pass, towel clutched in her hand. Who sent you? Jiyun asked. The man's mouth curled. People who lost more than their appetite when your old place went down. Investors, staff, suppliers who had to eat the cost while you disappeared into the shadows. Some of us don't like leaving the bill unpaid. Chef Joe. June guessed. Chef Joe doesn't care whether you live or die, the man said. As long as the ledger balances. He warned you, told you to stay small, stay quiet. But here you are, opening a new place, acting like nothing happened. So you thought you'd fix it, June said. I thought I'd speed it up, the man said simply. Doesn't have to be you, though. Could be her. His gaze flicked toward Sarah. Pain spends the same either way. He moved. The fight was ugly. There was no choreography, no elegant disarm like in dramas. There were pans clattering to the floor, a rack of spices crashing down, a knife scraping metal and skin. June grabbed whatever his hand landed on. Pot lid, serving tray, anything to block the blade. The first strike slammed into the lid. The second carved hot across his side, a burning line under his ribs. Sarah screamed his name. Mina sobbed. The attacker raised the knife again. Police! A voice roared from the front. Drop it! The shot this time came before the blade fell. The man jerked, eyes wide, then collapsed. The knife skidded away. Boots pounded. Officers swarmed. Somewhere in the chaos, Dojin's face appeared over Jiun, breath harsh, gun still drawn. Ambulance is coming, the detective said. Don't try to be dramatic and die before it gets here. Blood soaked Jiun's shirt. His hands were slick with it. Sarah pressed a towel to his side, her face streaked with tears and sweat. Stay with me, she kept saying. Please stay. He laughed once, because he'd heard those words in so many different alleys, different rooms, different deaths. We've done this before, he whispered. What are you talking about? She cried. If this resets, he said, grabbing Dojin's sleeve. If I wake up and it's morning again, don't just chase the guy who came through the door. Look at everyone who had money in that kitchen. Investors, partners, anyone who thinks I owe them. They're the ones writing these recipes. You're losing blood, Dojin snapped. Stop talking nonsense. Make sure she doesn't pay for me twice, Jiun said. The attacker, half conscious, spat something from the floor as officers hauled him onto a stretcher. You should have stayed down the first time, chef, he slurred. When that place went under, you were supposed to stay buried. You and your girl strutting around like nothing happened. World doesn't like that. We don't need both of you alive. The words chased Jiun into the darkness. He woke to his alarm. 6 o'clock. The phone buzzed. You awake? Don't burn the place down before I get their fire kiss mark. He lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the tick of the clock and the faint hum of the fridge downstairs. Then he spoke, voice hoarse but steady. Okay, he said. I understand. The loop wasn't punishment for failing to save Sarah. It was a demand. Choose. Let the balance fall on her again and again while he kept clawing at the day, or admit that the one life the universe wanted in full was his. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, chest tight but oddly clear. If it's me you're after, he said to the empty room, to the silent burner downstairs, to whatever force kept snapping the clock back, then next time, I'll stop fighting you. His hand closed around the edge of the mattress until his knuckles hurt. One more service, he murmured. One more day with her. Then I'll pay. Outside, dawn slid pale light across the street. Inside, the alarm clicked off. The message from Sarah waited, bright and normal. He typed back, fingers finally steady. I'm awake. Don't be late. The last time the alarm went off at 6 o'clock, Han Jiun didn't flinch. His body still jolted, the way it always did when sound crashed into dreams. But there was no wild grab for his phone, no frantic scan of the room. He lay still, listening to the soft ticking of the clock and the hum of the fridge downstairs. The message didn't take long. You awake? Don't burn the place down before I get their fire kiss mark. His thumb hovered over the screen. The muscle memory of a dozen replies tugged at him. Jokes, grunts, half-awake emojis. He typed slowly instead. I'm awake. Don't be late. He stared at the words a beat, then sent them. For a moment, there was nothing. Just the soft gray of morning sliding across his ceiling. Then 3 dots appeared. When am I ever late? Smirking face. He huffed out something like a laugh, sat up, and swung his legs over the side of the bed. This is the last one, he told the floor. The last time I do this day. He showered, dressed, and went down into Rue 27. The burners were cold. The prep list was clean. The space waited, empty, like a stage before lights, holding its breath. He didn't check the flame first this time. He turned on music instead. Low, old jazz that Sarah liked to make fun of. You were definitely an old man in another life. And let it fill the quiet. Then he moved. Stock first. Not rushed, not obsessed, just precise. He toasted bones and vegetables, deglazed the pan, let the broth start to simmer. While it warmed, he mixed dough, hands working rhythmically as the morning light brightened on the street outside. By the time the front door opened, the kitchen smelled like roasted marrow, onions, and something sharper underneath, citrus, maybe. Hope, you're cheating on me with Miles Davis, Sarah announced, backing in with a tray of coffees. I knew it. He turned. She stood in the doorway with her hair half-tamed, apron looped messily through her arm, cheeks flushed from the wind. For a second, the sight of her hit him so hard he forgot how to breathe. Morning, he said. She frowned. You okay? He didn't cross the room in 3 strides and grab her like in one of the loops where he'd woken shaking. He walked, steady, took the coffees from her, brushed a kiss across her forehead like they had all the time in the world. I'm okay, he said. You're here. Her eyes softened, suspicion melting. Well, yeah. Somebody has to stop you from naming the special something pretentious. He smiled. Too late. He showed her the menu board. She groaned at 2 dish names, corrected one, underlined another with a little flourish. Better, she declared. Barely. Where's Mina? On time, he said. For once. As if summoned, the door banged and Mina tumbled in, backpack half-zipped, hair still damp. Not late, she announced. See, I can be responsible. Sometimes. Clock says 3 minutes late, Jiun said. Kitchen time is fake, she muttered. He almost snapped back with the line about time being an ingredient. Instead he watched her, really watched. The guilt from the alley, from the burner, from the dumpster, from the crying confession behind trash bags. None of it showed on her face. This Mina was pre-sabotage, pre-envelope, pre-ultimatum. He could let it happen again. Let the notes slip into her locker at midday. Let the calls worm into her ears at night. Or he could cut the loop earlier than before. Mina, he said. She froze mid-step. Yeah. He pulled an envelope from under the pass. Same cheap paper. Same tidy letters. He'd spent part of dawn recreating it from memory, down to the phrasing. Her name stared back at her. Color drained from her face. What is that? Something that arrives for you around noon in most versions of today, he said. I thought we'd skip the waiting. She looked between his face and the envelope. Is this a joke? Because it's not funny. Open it, he said gently. Her fingers shook as she did. The printed note inside was short. You want the debt gone. Do one job. Details to follow. At the bottom, an address. Rue 27. She swallowed. How did you? I've seen it before, he said. More times than I want to admit. I never showed anyone, she whispered. I was going to throw it away. Or maybe I wasn't. I don't know. I know, he said. I don't blame you for being scared. But I'm not letting them use you. Who even are they? She demanded, anger spiking under the panic. What kind of psycho threatens someone's staff because they hate a chef? The kind who think they bought my life once, he said, and are offended I'm still using it. Sarah stepped closer, brows knit. What is this? He looked at both of them. He had never told them this much this early. Time, the one thing he'd never had enough of, stood thick in the air. Today is going to be very good, he said quietly, and very dangerous. You realize that's the worst motivational speech ever, Sarah said. What's going on? He could tell them everything, the loops, the deaths, the way the day snapped back like a rubber band. He didn't. Not because he didn't trust them, but because the more he explained, the more they'd try to help, and the more the loop twisted to punish him for it. I'm being paid back for something I didn't do, he said instead. And they've been trying to collect through the people around me. I'm not letting that happen anymore. Then let us help, Sarah said. You will, he said. Just not the way you think. He handed the envelope back to Mina. Put this somewhere safe. Later, when the police ask, you'll have it ready. The police are coming? She squeaked. They're already watching, he said. As if on cue, his phone buzzed. From Kong Dojin. MSG. I hope this is your idea of a joke. Otherwise, I just read the most paranoid text of my week. He'd sent the message an hour earlier, before prep. A list of names, times, and one sentence. Tonight someone will try to finish what they started with the old restaurant. Come hungry and armed. He typed back, bring backup, and an appetite. The day moved forward like a river that had finally been accepted for what it was. Dangerous, cold, inevitable, but beautiful when the light hit it just right. Prep felt almost normal. Sarah teased him for humming along to the music. Mina complained about shrimp deveining. The fish still arrived late. The plumber still showed up uninvited and left something worse than he found it. But every time the script tried to lean toward the familiar cracks, toward alleyway smoke, toward the back door slightly ajar, Jiyun was already there, nudging it gently, changing the blocking by inches. He didn't overcontrol. That hadn't worked. He didn't overprotect. That had backfired. He just guided. At staff meal, he sat with them instead of eating standing up over the sink. You're freaking me out, Mina said around a spoonful of rice. You're calm. I'm allowed one good mood per decade, he said. Sarah narrowed her eyes. You look like someone who made a decision and doesn't want to tell the class. He looked at her, really looked, letting himself memorize everything. The way she held her chopsticks slightly wrong. The shape of the scar on her knuckle from the first time she tried to caramelize sugar and forgot how hot it got. I did, he said. And? She pressed. And you'll hate it, he said. But you'll be alive to be mad at me. I'm okay with that. You're saying creepy things again, she said. But there was a tremor in it now. The first wave of customers arrived. The restaurant filled. He slipped into the rhythm he knew best. Fire, plate, wipe, call, taste, adjust. In the middle of service, a tall man in an expensive coat walked in without a reservation. He had the posture of someone used to being told yes even when the answer should have been no. In the book, Mina whispered. No, Sarah whispered back. Jiyun checked the front, heart thumping once for a reason that had nothing to do with fear. He knew that face. Not intimately, but from photos attached to articles he'd spent a long time trying not to read. Investor. The main one who'd backed the old restaurant. The one whose statement after the scandal had been all polished disappointment and carefully arranged blame. Welcome, Jiyun said, voice even. We're fully booked tonight, but I can squeeze you in at the bar if you don't mind watching the kitchen. The man smiled, small and razor-thin. I insist on it, he said. He sat where the man in the cap had sat in other loops, where shadows had lingered. Tonight the light hit his face clearly. The critic arrived later, taking his usual neutral seat, notebook out. Bloggers murmured over their phones. A couple on a first date argued about wine quietly. The room hummed with warmth and expectation. Somewhere outside, parked where he had a line of sight on both the front door and the alley, Dojin watched. When the rush reached its peak, when the tickets jammed the rail and the pass gleamed under plates, someone pushed through the front door with the hesitant shuffle of a person who didn't quite belong. He was older than the barman, shoulders hunched, chef's whites under his coat. His hair was more gray than the last time Jiyun had seen him in person, but the eyes were the same. Chef Joe stood in the doorway of Rue 27 and sniffed once, as if testing the air. Sarah stiffened at the host's stand, glancing at Jiyun. That him? She mouthed. Jiyun nodded. Chef Joe's gaze slid over the dining room, over the open kitchen, over Jiyun's hands moving over plates. Table for one? June asked because it was easier than saying everything else. I won't be staying that long, Joe said. I was in the neighborhood. Wanted to see the circus. I'm a terrible clown, June said. But the food's good. The food was always good, Joe snapped softly. That was never the problem. June held his stare. No, he said. The problem was who paid for whose mistakes. The investor at the bar turned in his seat, eyes narrowing at the tone. I see you still like making scenes where you don't own the stage, he said. Oh, he owns this one, Sarah said under her breath. Funny, the investor said, catching it. Last I checked, the lease documents tell a different story. Banks own stages. Men like me rent them to men like you. Then you'll want the publicity, June said calmly. A room full of witnesses is always good for business. Chef, Mina hissed nervously. He didn't look away from the two men who had profited most in different ways from his fall. You had your chance to talk in private, he said. You used it to bury me. Tonight we do it where the light is. The critic's pen paused over his pad. Is this part of the performance? He called, only half joking. Depends how dramatic you like your dining, June said. Time pressed at the edge of his awareness. The night was tipping into its dangerous slope. 21:30. 2200 hours. The window between 2250 and 2320 loomed ahead, where the day always fractured. Dojin, he murmured, almost certain the detective would hear it through whatever microphone he'd hidden nearby. This is your cue. He gave the orders he had to give. Mina, focus on the pass, he said. No trips to the back alone. Sarah, you stay where customers can see you. If anyone calls you, you hand the phone to me. And you? Sarah asked. He took a breath, filling his lungs with steam and spice. I'm going to finish this, he said. Service moved inexorably toward closing. The last mains went out. Desserts followed. People laughed, oblivious, forks clinking, wine pouring. At 22:45, the critic requested a word with the chef. Go, Sarah urged, gently shoving him toward the dining room. I'll hold the fort. He approached the table, wiped his hands on his apron. Well? He asked. The food is annoyingly good, the critic said. Your timing was off earlier, but you corrected fast. The staff look harried but not abused. And watching whatever showdown is happening over there is intriguing. He flicked his gaze toward the bar and the doorway, where the investor and Joe sat like two vultures in different suits. You planning to set the place on fire to match your last reputation? The critic added. No fires, June said. Not tonight. He felt it then. The shift, like an invisible hand reaching into the room, starting its usual work. Loosening a screw here, nudging a door there, drawing danger in like tide. The front door chimed. A man walked in. Not the same one as the shooter. Not the same as the alley shadow or the fake delivery guy. But cut from the same cloth. Forgettable face, generic jacket, eyes that slid past details. Mina tensed at the pass. Chef, she whispered. I see him, June said quietly. The man scanned the room. His gaze skipped customers, jumped past the bar, landed on the open path between the kitchen and the back hallway. Then his eyes met June's. For a moment, they stared at each other. The man's expression didn't change, but something like calculation ticked behind his gaze. He reached inside his jacket. Showtime, June said under his breath. He stepped away from the critic and toward the center of the room, deliberately drawing eyes. Excuse me, he called, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. House rule. Anyone who walks into my restaurant with their hand in their jacket right after dessert owes me a very good explanation. A ripple of uneasy laughter went through the room. The man hesitated. Then he pulled his hand out. Empty. Sorry, he said smoothly. Just my wallet. Wanted to pay at the counter. Table, Sarah managed, voice tight. No, the man said. Just picking something up. He moved toward the hallway. Behind him, near the broken window that had been replaced since the gunman loop, The bar investor signaled subtly, barely a tilt of his head. Not toward the man, toward the back. A tiny gesture that said, "This way." June saw it. "Sarah," he said softly, without looking back. "Stay inside." "Don't you dare," she began. He walked anyway. The hallway to the back door felt narrower than usual. Fluorescent light buzzed overhead. His footsteps sounded too loud. Behind him, the murmur of the dining room dimmed, replaced by his own heartbeat. The stranger slowed, as if waiting for him. "You picked a bad night," June said. "From what I hear," the man replied, "there isn't a good one with you." June almost smiled. "You on the payroll too?" The man shrugged. "I'm just here to finish a story someone else started. You're the chapter that refuses to end." They reached the back door. The man glanced meaningfully at the lock. "Funny thing," he said. "Sometimes all it takes is one unlocked door, one open flame, one person in the wrong place. Then the insurance pays, the debts go away, and the world forgets the names that caused the mess in the first place." "That's one way to look at it," June said. "Here's another. You and men like you have been treating human lives like ingredients you can burn and throw away when the dish doesn't work." He stepped between the man and the door, blocking his view of the kitchen. He knew Sarah was somewhere just beyond the pass, probably straining to hear, probably furious. "Tonight," June said, hand closing on the handle behind him, "you're not getting past me." The man studied him. "You're very brave for someone who keeps running back into the same day," he said. The words made something inside June go cold. He hadn't spoken of the loop to anyone but his own walls and, in fragments, to Dojin. "Who told you that?" he asked quietly. The man smiled, thin as a knife. "You're not the only one haunted, chef. Your old friends in high places have been asking why you survive things you shouldn't. Some people think it's luck. Some think it's karma taking its time. Me? I think some clocks just need a push." His hand moved again. This time the metal did flash. Jiyun moved without thinking, because he'd seen this play 100 ways, even if the actors changed. He grabbed the man's wrist. The knife glanced off the door, showering splinters. They grappled, bodies slamming into the wall, into shelves. A crate toppled, bottles shattering. The hallway filled with the sharp smell of vinegar and alcohol. He could have shouted for help. He didn't. The loop had taught him one thing. The more people involved, the more the story tried to spill blood. So he kept the fight small and ugly. The blade grazed his arm. He twisted, forcing the man's hand down. A knee drove into his ribs. He wheezed, vision spotting, but held on. Behind the stranger's shoulder, at the very edge of his vision, he saw movement. Sarah, eyes wide, standing just inside the kitchen threshold. "Get back," he snapped. "I am not leaving you," she began. The man took advantage of the distraction. He shoved forward, suddenly using his whole weight. The knife slipped past Jiun's grip, point swinging. For a split second, Jiun saw the line it would take. Past his shoulder, straight into Sarah. Time did what it always did when it wanted something. It stretched. He could see every loop stacked behind this one. Her body in the alley, on the sidewalk, in their apartment. His own hand reaching too late. Her lips shaping his name. No more. He stepped into the blade. It was a small movement. Half a step. Just enough to put his chest where her throat had been. Pain punched through him. Sharp, clean, shocking. Sarah screamed. The sound echoed down the hall, ricocheted inside his head. The man's eyes went wide. Not with horror. With surprise. "You," he started. He didn't get to finish. "Drop it," a voice roared. 2 shots rang down the hallway, one from behind, one from the side where the door to the alley burst open. The man jerked, collapsing. The knife clattered from his hand. June staggered. His back hit the wall. He slid down it, leaving a smear. "Han Jiun." Dojin's face appeared above him, then doubled, then tripled in his spinning vision. "You suicidal maniac. I told you not to be dramatic." Sarah shoved the detective aside, falling to her knees, hands already pressing at his chest. Warmth spread under her fingers. "No," she said, breath coming in sharp bursts. "No, no, no. Not like this. Not you." He would have liked to make a joke. Something about timing, about recipes, about how he finally got a dish perfect. His tongue felt thick. "Sarah," he said instead. "Shut up," she snapped, tears streaking down. "Save your breath. You are not allowed to die in a hallway like a bad B-movie. Better here than the alley," he managed. Her hands stilled. Her eyes flicked up to his. "How do you," she began. He wanted to tell her everything. All the days. All the almosts and never quites. How he'd watched her die more times than any person should have to see, and how that had ruined him and saved him all at once. He settled for less, because the world was dimming at the edges and he didn't know how long this version would last. "I've seen too many ways this ends," he whispered. "This is the one where you walk out." Tears spilled faster. "Walk out with you. As long as you walk," he said. Behind her, the hallway filled with more bodies. Uniforms. Paramedics. Someone shouting about the investor at the bar. About Chef Joe trying to slip out the front and being intercepted by officers stacking names, motives, old financial records. Dojin's phone barked as his team texted him details. Accounts frozen, messages traced, a chain of favors and grudges finally pulled taut. "Looks like your old kitchen just vomited all its secrets into my lap," he said grimly, crouching. Anonymous tip to the press, leaked docs, recorded calls. "You've been busy for a man stuck in one day." Knowledge was the one thing the loop couldn't erase. Ji-yoon had spent the quiet stretches between deaths memorizing numbers, dates, phrases. On this loop, early, while Sarah still slept upstairs, he'd sent everything in one long, carefully written message to Dojin and a couple of persistent food journalists. If he died now, the story wouldn't. "Good," he breathed. Sarah's fingers tightened on him. "You're not dying," she repeated. "Do you hear me? You don't get to leave me with a restaurant and a trauma." He wanted to tell her he loved her. It was there on his tongue. "I'm sorry," he said instead. "For what?" she cried. "For being late. So many times." Her laugh broke on a sob. "Then get up and be on time for once." His eyelids were heavy. The hallway blurred to watercolors. Sarah's face, white and streaked. Mina's silhouette behind her, frozen and shaking. Dojin's grim jaw. The flashing red-blue from outside painting everything in emergency colors. Somewhere in the distance, he heard a clock chime. 23:27. He braced for the yank. For the lurch. For the humiliating, exhausting light of 6 o'clock and the same message blinking on his phone. Nothing came. The pain stayed. The hallway stayed. Sarah's hands stayed. Time moved. 23:28. 23:29. The numbers rolled forward, and the world didn't rip him out of it. The loop was over. Relief was a strange feeling to have while bleeding. It made him want to laugh and cry and throw up at the same time. "June," Sarah whispered. "Stay with me." He blinked up at her. "You called me June," he murmured. "That's what you're worried about?" She choked. "You idiot." His lips twitched. "Always wanted to hear it. Like that." Then the darkness swept up. Not as a yank this time, not as a reset, but as the simple, heavy curtain of a body giving in. He let it. When he woke again, the light was wrong. Too white, too clean, too still. Hospitals all had the same smell. Antiseptic and fear, no matter what city you were in. He stared at the ceiling tiles for a long time before daring to look at the clock on the wall. 14:10. The date below it was not the same. It was 3 days later. His throat burned. His chest ached. Bandages pulled when he tried to shift. "Don't move," a voice said from the doorway. "I just negotiated with the nurse for more pain meds. If you tear anything, I'm not carrying you to surgery." He turned his head. Dojin leaned in the doorway, hands in his pockets, eyes ringed with sleep he didn't seem to have gotten. "You look terrible," Ji-yoon croaked. "You look alive," Dojin said. "Which, frankly, is annoying because now I owe a journalist dinner. She said you'd be too stubborn to die." "Is Sarah alive?" Dojin said. currently terrorizing the nursing staff because they won't let her bring her own food into your room. Something about hospital meals being an insult to his profession. Relief physically hurt. He exhaled, eyes closing. And Mina? He asked, giving a very shaky but very detailed statement. Dojin said, along with about 4 other people whose names you texted me. Funny thing, when journalists get anonymous packets of evidence and a detective calls the financial crimes unit at the same time, people in nice suits start tripping over themselves to cooperate. Chef Joe? June asked. Lawyered up, Dojin said. But we have enough to keep him busy for a while. Your investor friend is already in custody. There are charges stacked from here to next year. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted murder. You know, the usual. June swallowed. And the guy in the hallway? Dead, Dojin said without ceremony. He doesn't get to hurt anyone else. Silence settled for a moment. You did something suicidal and stupid, the detective said then, stepping into that knife on purpose. It worked, June rasped. You're injured, Dojin countered. I'm here, June said. So is she. Dojin studied him. You knew, he said slowly, didn't you? That if you kept dodging the blade, it would just keep coming back. I knew the loop wanted a price, June said. I just decided I'd rather pay it than watch her do it again. Again, Dojin repeated. You really are married to this time is looping theory, huh? June's gaze drifted to the clock again. The seconds moved inexorably forward. No reset. No replay. For the first time in, I don't know how long, he said. It's not a theory anymore. It's just time. Footsteps pounded down the hall. A familiar voice rose, arguing with someone about visiting hours. I don't care about visiting hours, Sarah snapped. He almost died because he can't mind his own business. You think a sign on a door is going to stop me? The nurse's protests faded as she slipped inside anyway. She froze when she saw him awake. For a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. Then, very slowly, her face crumpled. You, she said, crossing the room in 3 strides. You selfish, infuriating, impossible man. He would have moved toward her if he could. Instead, he let her grab his hand, her fingers warm and shaking. You stepped into a knife, she said, voice breaking. I told you not to be late, not to be a hero. I'm bad at instructions, he said. She laughed and sobbed at the same time. You think this is funny? No, he said softly. But I think you being here is perfect. He squeezed her hand with what strength he had. Sarah, he said. If you say you're sorry again, I'll smother you with a pillow, she warned. I was going to say I love you, he said. Her breath hitched. Tears spilled over. Good, she said. Because I was going to say if you ever pull something like that again, I'm going to kill you myself. After I marry you. So it's legal. He blinked. That's not how that works. Shut up, she said, leaning down to press her forehead to his. You owe me a proposal. A good one. Not in a hallway with blood everywhere. I had one planned, he said, with champagne and dessert. I know, she whispered. I found the ring box in your locker after they wheeled you out. You idiot. You went through my stuff, he murmured. You almost died, she shot back. I get one free violation of privacy. He smiled, weak but real. Give it back, he said. She pulled away just enough to see his face. What? The ring, he said. Give it back. You're hooked up to 3 different machines, she protested. You're not proposing while you're wearing a hospital gown. Timing is everything, he said. If I wait for the perfect moment, the universe might get ideas. Something in his voice made her swallow whatever joke she'd been about to make. Fine, she muttered, wiping her eyes with her sleeve. But if you pass out in the middle, I'm saying no on principle. She fished the small box out of her bag. It was scuffed now from being carried through police stations and hospital corridors. He took it, fingers clumsy around the edges. This is very unglamorous, she pointed out. No candles, no flowers. Just Dojin lurking in the doorway and in 4 stand. Best audience, Dojin said dryly. Don't mind me. June ignored him. He opened the box. The ring inside looked smaller than he remembered. Or maybe his perspective had changed. Sarah, he said. The name felt like an anchor in his mouth. I don't know how many times I almost lost you. I don't know how many versions of this day we went through that you'll never remember. But I know, in every single one, you were the only thing worth trying again for. Her eyes shimmered. That's cheating, she whispered. You're using trauma points. Marry me, he said simply, so that if time does something stupid again, it at least has to deal with both of us, not just me chasing after you. That is the worst and best proposal I've ever heard, she said, laughing weakly. Is that a yes? He asked. She sniffed. Obviously. He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands. It fit like it had always meant to be there. Good, he said, head sinking back into the pillow. Now I can rest. My job here is done. Don't you dare, she said, kissing his forehead. You still have to sign contracts and meet my parents and survive 500 dinner services with influencers. That's cruel, he murmured. Welcome to life, she said. Weeks later, Rue 27 reopened. The story broke before it did. Articles about corruption in the old kitchen. Investors charged, Chef Joe quietly stepping down for health reasons. As headlines tore through the culinary world, the narrative shifted. The words reckless and negligent in old articles were replaced by framed clippings that whispered things like scapegoat, whistleblower, survivor. June didn't read most of them. Sarah did, arms crossed, face set, and summarized with colorful commentary. Mina returned, shoulders straighter, eyes clearer. I'll work off what I almost did for the rest of my life, she said. You'll work off your terrible knife skills first, he said. Dojin came by occasionally, sitting at the bar, nursing a drink, complaining about paperwork and chefs who think they can take on organized crime alone. You like this place, Sarah teased. I like the dessert, he said. The chef is fine. Nights at Rue 27 found their flow. Some services were smooth. Some were disasters. Tickets still jammed. Sauces still broke. Ovens misbehaved. Time finally moved only forward. One slow Tuesday, long after the bruises had faded and the bandages were gone, Jiun stood alone in the dining room, wiping down a table. It was late. The street outside was quiet. The clock on the wall read 23:25. He felt a familiar twinge in his chest. Old muscle memory. The part of him that had learned to brace at this minute waited for alarms, for screams, for the sharp sting of a reset. Nothing came. A chair scraped lightly behind him. Sarah slid into it, dropping a notebook on the table. Menu ideas, she said, for our anniversary, which I have decided is opening day, not the day you almost bled out. I prefer my milestones with less gore. He sat across from her. Agree. They talked about dishes, about maybe closing for one night a year to feed only friends, about the possibility of franchising, which he shot down immediately. As they spoke, the clock ticked past 23:27, 23:28, 23:29. He glanced at it. What? She asked. Nothing, he said. She followed his gaze. Understanding flickered across her face. Still waiting for the loop? She asked softly. Sometimes, he admitted. Some habits are harder to break than bones. She reached across the table and took his hand, thumb tracing the scar just visible under his shirt. Then we'll build new habits, she said, like sitting down at the end of service, or going home before midnight once in a while, or not throwing ourselves in front of knives unless absolutely necessary. Only if you agree not to answer unknown numbers at 11 p.m., he said. Deal, she said. Outside, a late bus rattled past. A dog barked somewhere down the block. Life went on, gloriously indifferent. Inside, under the soft lights of Rue 27, a chef and a pastry chef sat at a table with empty plates and full hearts, talking quietly about a future that, for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, wasn't just a day he'd already seen. Time no longer looped. It stretched ahead, messy and fragile and unwritten. He squeezed her hand. "Tomorrow," he said. She smiled. "Tomorrow," she echoed. And when the clock rolled over to midnight, it did so like it always should have, once.